Peace, peace. You know what it is. It's your man SKYZOO Skyzoo, live out the borough. And this is the NBA Exchange with my man Dexter Henry. You know how you doing it, man. Log on, tap in. Let's get into it.
What's good, everybody? Happy Friday. Your boy Dexter Henry here with the NBA Exchange. Busy week. A lot has been going on. With this, I'm excited what we're going to talk about today because we're going to talk about some Miami Heat basketball because we have not touched upon them this year in full depth yet. So, considering we're talking about Miami Heat basketball, y'all already probably know who's coming on. It's got to be the guy who acts like he isn't a Miami Heat fan. But I'm not even going to do that to him. We're not going to say this about him not being a Miami Heat fan anymore. This is what we will say. He is very connected and is connected with other people who are connected to Miami Heat basketball. You see him doing work with 5 Reasons Sports. You see him in a lot of places. He is my co-host with the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. It is my guy, Bryan Fonseca. Bryan, what's going on, man?
I'm doing better than they are. I mean, we can start there. You know,
you're doing better. You're doing better than they are. That's good personally for you.
I ain't losing to the Lakers. You know, with Dennis Schroeder blowing by me 5 times in the clutch or whatever it was, and you know, a team that doesn't even have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and like they were actually playing good basketball before that, like 8-3 in over 11 games, and just, but you know. Doing all right. Got some things coming. And obviously, you know, this is a big boxing week because Gervonta Tank Davis is fighting. So I wrote about that for Action Network and got some stuff planned in combat sports world that we'll be getting into later this month. But happy to be here, as always.
Yes, we're going to get later this month. And it's funny. I feel like we're going to have a good combat sports discussion on our next episode of the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. I'm actually looking forward to having with you after this Gervonta Davis fight. And also some things that have been going around with football and physicality. I think there's a lot of good things to talk about there in terms of sports culture. We'll get into that. The Miami Heat, I think it was you the other night. You texted me. You were like, "Yo, this team's like kind of boring." You know, the Miami Heat, they just haven't been exciting this year. You know,
I called them a 500 ass team.
A 500 ass team. Okay. Yeah. I mean, but listen, they're 20-19. That is a 500 ass team, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what they are. So, you know, also we call them boring. They're mediocre. I don't think the Heat have ever been exciting in this recent stretch, offensively exciting, and we'll get to that a little later. But they're mediocre. Why do you think that they are a mediocre 500 ass team right now? Like, why are they that?
Well, I mean, there are a bunch of nuanced reasons for that, but like the simplest form of it is like they win games that they shouldn't and they lose games that they shouldn't, like, and then thus you're about 500. Like, it's that simple sometimes, right? I think ultimately what it is they started off this year just behind the 8 ball in terms of not having Omer Yurtseven, who was probably going to be in a rotation, not having Victor Oladipo, who they were counting on. All things considered, you know, going into the season, yes, he wasn't expected to be the Victor Oladipo of old, but he was one of the guys that Ethan Skolnick of 5 Reasons kept reporting. They were counting on him to really emerge and pick up where he left off after an impressive playoff performance defensively, especially, and that the offense would come along at some point. And to their credit, since he's returned from injury recently, he's been very good on the ball defensively and wreaking havoc on the perimeter. However, this team had a flawed roster coming into the season. I think, and there's been a whole lot of like, should this team run it back? You know, that was very, very much a thing during the offseason. And essentially what they did was they let PJ Tucker walk. They kept Caleb Martin because it kind of had to become a choice, you know, financially. They made the right move in that regard. However, they didn't address the 4 spot with, like, say, Duncan Robinson and whomever. And in all likelihood, in order to get rid of Duncan Robinson, to get a 4 power forward, you would have had to attach a first-round pick. And ultimately, that's not something that they did. And there you have the roster construction where, again, and I say this all the time, if Bam Adebayo, who's been awesome this year, we're going to get to him, if he's going to play out on the perimeter defensively, or I should say switch out to the perimeter defensively, you're going to need someone else who's got some size, who can rebound down low or box guys out. That's the spot where they miss PJ Tucker, because he could at least do that in a way that Caleb Martin can't, in a way that Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry, they could rebound well for their position. Rebounding well for your position and rebounding well versus a Thomas Bryant who got clutch rebounds against them in the fourth quarter, 1 against 2, like totally different things. So they need to size up. And now Nikola Jovic is hurt, and they weren't playing him that much to begin with, which is confusing to me, but he's a rookie. Omer Yurtseven, there's no signs of him coming back anytime soon. And Dwayne Dedmon's been playing through injury all season long. So you've had to rely on two-way player Orlando Robinson, who's actually been, pretty good in spots as a rookie, but he's ultimately a rookie. And this team needs to get big and get big fast. And that's part of why they are where they are right now.
Yeah, 20-19. That's where the Miami Heat are right now. So pretty mediocre. I think the thing people look at, this is a team that was right on the verge of possibly going back to the NBA Finals last year. And they were shot away against Boston. They were in the finals, so 3 seasons ago, in the bubble season. They get there. So I think some people are wondering, and we're right at the halfway point of the season. We're talking about 39 games for the Miami Heat. Do you still look at them as title contenders? Are they title contenders or no? Or are we starting to see some sort of shift with the Miami Heat?
Well, internally, they think they're title contenders, but they're not playing like it. And I think, to be fair, on a team with Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and throw Tyler Hero in there as well this season, you should fancy yourself a title contender, especially coming off last year. The problem is the rest of their roster and construction is just, they're asking a lot of guys to do more than they should have to. And that's what happens when your roster is thin and when your roster is, I would say, incomplete in terms of a build. And the reason why it's hard to say that they're actually title contenders is, one, their record. And at some point you are what your record says. But then also, like from a macro standpoint, the Bucks and the Celtics have been the clear 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference all season long. The Nets, although against a softer schedule and with good health, like they've been playing well as of late. They've been better than the Heat this season. The Sixers have been better ultimately. Like, they have their issues as well, but I wouldn't put the Heat on their tier as of late, the way they've been playing, right? And then you have the Cleveland Cavaliers. So you have at least 5 teams in the Eastern Conference, and I would cap it at 5 teams in the Eastern Conference who are definitively better than them and who you would ultimately favor in a playoff series against this Miami Heat team. That's not to say that the Heat can't hang with some of those teams and potentially beat some of those teams in a playoff series, but you wouldn't bet on them to beat probably any of those teams in the playoff series, or at the very least, they'd be underdogs. And that's how you have to look at it, because in the Eastern Conference right now, they'd probably be outside the top 5, and this is a 15-team conference. So you need to, and I had said this going into the season, I thought that they were going to be a mid-40s win team, 46, 47-ish wins, something like that, if they sort of stood pat. Now, they're going to need some work to even get to that point, right? A lot of work, but it's entirely possible because, they can go on a late season run and, if they're healthy, whatever the case may be. But I ultimately said, if this team is going to contend, they need to do something between now and the trade deadline. We're getting closer and closer to that. And January 15th is a significant date because that's when certain contracts, Dwayne Dedmon, Victor Oladipo, are eligible for trade. I don't think they're trading Victor Oladipo, but, in the right deal, who knows? And the Kyle Lowry element is interesting. But in order to really contend, they have to make at least one move, probably more than one significant move to really bolster this roster.
And we're going to get to that a little later. Like, could be that significant move for the Miami Heat? We'll see there. I think if you're the most optimistic Heat fan, I think one of the things you have to look at this season, at least for me, is Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero have had some leaps in their game, both particularly offensively. Tyler Hero with the shot selection and efficiency. Bam Adebayo also improving a little bit offensively, which is something you and I have talked about and I've been calling for and saying that needed to happen for the Heat, I think, to get to the next level there. Have you been impressed with Bam particularly where he is in his growth? And do you still think there's another level for him? And what about Tyler Hero as he grows offensively? You talk his name, he's probably the Heat's best trade chip when you talk about making moves, if they were to move off of him. Not saying that they were, but the growth of both of these guys, where do you like what you've seen from them this year?
Well, that's been the thing, right? Like, among all the less than desirable things that they've had to endure this season, you've at least seen the growth of these two, Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. Excuse me. And with both of them, they have chemistry, great chemistry. Like, one of their best, probably their best play, and it has been for a while now, is when they run a Tyler Bam pick and roll, and they're able to get a lot of options off of that. They just have such great chemistry. Part of that is because Tyler Hero can get to his spots around the elbow, pull up mid-range jumper. He's taking more threes now, which is good. Taking them off the dribble, some catch and shoots as well. And with Bam Adebayo, he's just gotten more creative with his offense down low. It's not everything, not everything is dunks. And he's not putting up threes, but I don't think, we're going to be at that point because, it takes a while for a big to even get there. Look at how long it took even Brook Lopez and Al Horford, after becoming, nice with the mid-range, how long it took them to really become deadly three-point shooters. So I'm not looking for Bam to do that anyway, but he's got more comfortable from the mid-range. And that's something that sort of like he established really in that first couple seasons stretch where he really emerged, right before and after the pandemic started, where he was hitting some mid-range jumpers. It kind of got away from that a little bit last year and now is back to really hitting that mid-range jumper, facing up, has some floaters near the rim about 8 feet out or so, and is able to get into the lane and finish strong and get to the line as well. So, Tyler Hero, my big thing has been just getting to the free throw line also. I feel like he's done that a little bit more, over the course of the season, but like, I still want to see that rate go up. He should be getting to the line significantly more, probably like 5-6 times a game. But he's been very good. He's developed as a playmaker as well. And he's somebody who, like, you can count on late in games to get you a bucket because he has multiple game winners this season and is somebody who's come up big in fourth quarters. So that development has been interesting. And you can see the pathway to both of them being great alongside Jimmy Butler. And now it's about figuring out the pieces around that or determining, something you hinted at, like, is Tyler Hero. And I'm not inclined to move him necessarily, but there are going to be some things on the table where, yeah, he is your best trade chip because this team is not going to trade Jimmy Butler and this team is not going to trade Bam Adebayo. It's going to be hard if you're going to upgrade significantly not to move Tyler Hero. I would obviously try not to, except for there were talks about Donovan Mitchell over the summer and they didn't have the horses to sort of get Donovan Mitchell because Utah wanted Bam Adebayo. Tyler Hero, like if he had to be included in that deal, yeah, you got to do it. You know what I mean? Same thing with Kevin Durant and same thing with, maybe that dude in LA who didn't play against him the other day. Like that's something that's going to be talked about this summer. So we'll see.
Well, and I will say, because you mentioned about Bam's growth and the mid-range where he's been excelling, I think the word you used there was comfortable because some of my criticism with him last year in the playoffs is that he didn't look comfortable and he looked very hesitant to take those shots. And I'm very intrigued to see I think the Heat will make the playoffs, but against different playoff defenses, will he have that comfort level that he's shown thus far in the regular season to do it? Let's get back to the trade stuff because I think that's the thing. Like you kind of answered this. You feel like they need to shake something up with this roster. But what is that? Right? Like what is the shakeup for the Heat? Is it a name I saw rumored out there? I believe it was yesterday I came across is Zach LaVine. I'm gonna throw that name at you. No, you're shaking your head. This is like when people bring up Zach LaVine to the Knicks for me. I immediately shake my head, and people sometimes are looking at me like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Why do you think this is the solution?" Are there any other names you think that could really help the Heat in terms of shaking up the roster with a trade?
Yeah, I mean, there's been talks about, and I'm just looking through it here. There's been talks about guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, but I don't think he's gonna yeah, it's fun and it's a creative option that you can see where it works as a four. But like two of the things he's not really good at is defense and rebounding, and that's where the Heat have struggled. And I don't think he's gonna help much there. Like, yes, I understand offense is wave now. A lot of people think this season has been fun because everybody's scoring 130 and we have 50-point nights seemingly every night. I don't think that's a lot of fun in that, but that's another discussion for another day. I think that if you're going to get somebody at the 4, you got to get somebody who could defend at least a little bit or like rebound a little bit. And Bojan Bogdanovic is, if you put him in that starting lineup now, he's probably the worst rebounder on this team. So I don't think that that's something that's going to help them. You know, there are Heat fans that want Kelly Olynyk back, and there's a pathway to that making sense, and it wouldn't cost a ton. Is Utah willing to do that? Obviously, that's your Duncan Robinson trade chip. And that's the thing about like the salary structures of a lot of these contracts. It's like you need the Duncan Robinson contract to get you in. And I feel like this is why they paid him so much, is because they felt like they could flip him. And he's somebody who just became the Heat's all-time three-point leader in NBA history, which is crazy because like it only took a few years, and that shows you where the game is right now. But you need that Duncan Robinson contract in order to make things work, and you probably need at least a first-round pick. So, you know, is a Kelly Olynyk enough? And do you want to pay a first-round pick for Kelly Olynyk? So to me, the way I look at it is this. I actually don't think there's a move where I'm like, unless there's something shocking, where I'm like immediately they can win a championship. So to me, you have to get somebody who's not on an expiring contract. And I think that's the key to it, right? You have to get somebody who's also going to be here the year after, because I just don't think they have enough right now, even though that's a big thing in Miami. Like Eric Spoelstra saying, we have enough. I don't think they have enough right now as presently constructed. So to me, I think you need to, if you're going to make a trade, get somebody who's going to be here next year. And I think because there are certain difficulties in trading, like a Tyler Hero, for example, again, not that I would do that, but like you're not doing that mid-season. Kyle Lowry is an interesting one because that's just straight up not working this year. And is he somebody who they're going to try to dangle? And I don't know for what, but he has a bigger salary number, closer to 30 million, like 28 million or so. And he's under contract for next year. So it's something that, like, if you wanted to hold off, you could do something in the summer. I almost think that they could like not even go full speed ahead and just not punt, but I'm saying like they could just kind of play out the season as is and then make their big move in the summer, kind of like what they did a couple years ago. And this season kind of reminds me a lot of that one after the bubble. So I think that at this point, you know, this season, I'm not sure there's a big move on the table, at least right now, but things could change in this league very quickly, and they have.
I could see that. I could definitely see them making their move after the season. I'm not sure what the big move is. The Heat in a weird way in a similar position as the Knicks, where I think you're going to hear these names like Levine and DeRozan, and I'm not sure those fit for them. Bogdanovic, I think he's the one that people say, oh, it's a little creative, will help some offense. And the Heat do have some offensive issues. I do, you know, they're 27th in adjusted offensive rating. Like I understand the need for people to do that. And defensively, they're actually, while the rebounding has not been good, they're 7th in adjusted defensive rating. So and that's a lot because of what you said. The recent stretch they had before the Lakers lost 8-3. They had been playing some better defense. You had seen that. But there were defensive issues with them, because if you look at their numbers in the beginning of this first half of the season, they were kind of around 18-20. And you're like, this isn't the Heat that we normally are seeing. So the defense has been getting better. I agree with you. What do you do need? The Heat need offensive help. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But what are you bringing in at that cost? And does that take away from so much you on the defensive end? I do think Kelly Olynyk is an interesting piece, but I agree with you. Where does that put you? I'm not really sure.
I don't know if it dramatically helps you.
Right. I'm not sure about that. If the Heat are to turn this around second half and get back to the, you know, Heat culture and a resurgence, what do you think has to happen? Is it a trade? Can this team turn it around and get into definitively the top 6, or maybe I haven't say the top 5? What do you think it's going to take for them to turn it around in the second half?
Well, the thing about this NBA season is I don't think teams are that, like, there are tiers. You can separate teams into tiers all day. Like tier 1 in the Eastern Conference, for example, is probably Celtics, Bucks. Tier 2 is probably Cavs, Sixers, Nets. The Heat should be in that tier. At their best, they're in that tier, but they just haven't been, like, for over the course of the season. But if you want to put them there, that's fine. That's where they should be anyway. If not, then they're in the 2A tier, and then after that, you would have like Knicks, Raptors, Hawks, Bulls, whatever the case may be. Probably not the Bulls this season. And the Knicks are probably better than those other two teams. So, like, the point is that not a lot separates them. And I think that because there's no juggernaut in either conference, especially not in the West, I think that there are reasons to go for it now, even though I question how much the Heat can actually, like, part of it is their roster is their roster. Part of it is also you don't have a ton to, like, trade with, right? We just saw what Rudy Gobert went for, and that's already looking like a historically awful trade. And as somebody who's pretty anti-Rudy Gobert, advanced analytics NBA Twitter, then yeah, I think we'll take the victory lap on this one very graciously. But like as it relates to the Heat and their sort of situation, like they can talk themselves into and will. There's something like that they can do to sort of put them back in the mix, right? And look, this is maybe the best front office in basketball. All it took a couple of years ago was a Jay Crowder, Andre Iguodala, Solomon Hill trade where they used Justice Winslow and I believe James Johnson and Dion Waiters, right? Like that's all it really took. And then, there was a pandemic, which they didn't even play that well in the bubble, like initially. And then they sort of found their rhythm. And people could say what they want about the bubble, but like, look, everybody was in there trying to win a championship except for maybe the Clippers. So like they were able to get there. And then they got back almost to the NBA finals last year with a lot of the same dudes. And that's part of it too. It's like Max Strus isn't playing that well. If he picks it up, and he had some moments recently, but if he picks it up, then that's something that could change your fortune. Gabe Vincent, I feel like has kind of lost a step defensively this year, was trying to play through injury, and offensively, he hasn't quite been what I think is his best case scenario, and that's like Mario Chalmers-ish, hasn't quite been that this year. If he picks it up in the second half, maybe you got something. Being healthy is going to be the key. Jimmy Butler's been in and out of the lineup, and that's part of the struggles too, but in and out of the lineup. Knee injury, this and that, and third, ankle, whatever the case may be. Just staying healthy is also part of this too. But in terms of what you can potentially do in the second half is regarding a trade, if you look at Duncan Robinson's contract, he's making about $17 million this year. And you look at the guys around that you can get, there's not a lot there. And OG Anunoby is probably the most interesting name, but is Toronto really going to just give you OG Anunoby? Like, that's going to require multiple first-round picks.
Yeah, multiple first-round picks. Yeah.
Like, and that's sort of the dream for in that lineup, but you ain't going to get OG Anunoby without giving up a king's ransom, so to speak.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. We'll see what the Heat are able to do in the second half. We'll see about that. All right, this is the spicy part of the show that I wanted to talk with Bryan about. We're gonna get off some Heat talk here. The All-Star voting. Okay.
God, these goddamn fans.
The returns came in yesterday, and boy, were they interesting. Very interesting, to say the least. I'm sorry, I'm pulling them up right here, now. So you can have it. I thought it was very interesting. Okay. And these are the first fan returns, right? Just I want to explain to the audience so they understand. Fans have 50% of the vote. The media has 25%, and the players have 25%. Okay. I have issues with that. I don't go as crazy about some other people do because it's the All-Star game. I don't care that much. I really don't. But y'all be tripping out here. What was your reactions to these? LeBron James, leading vote getter, right? Not surprising. Leads the front court. Kevin Durant leading the front court in the West. Not surprising. Your boy Kyrie Irving leading all guards in the East.
His army came out and voted for him.
Oh, the voiceless? The voiceless, the ones who came out and voted for him? Oh, okay. Okay.
Might make it all this year, though. He might be worthy of it. The way he's been playing lately, I'll give it to him.
God, look. I don't look.
I'm not doing the Kyrie thing now.
No. I'm not going to that. The larger point I'm going to make off of that is like, look, this is what we got to take away, and we'll get into this and with the fans and stuff. This is a popularity contest, folks. Mm-hmm. I understand that. It has always been that. I've always understand that. Let me say why. The number 10 in front court voting right now in the Western Conference is Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney is there because of the popularity of the Warriors right now. You know who's not on the top 10 in front court players in the West, who's having a fantastic season? I think there's a legitimate argument this person could be an all-star. Domantas Sabonis. Not there. It's ridiculous. Like, not there at all whatsoever, okay? Not there at all whatsoever. In the Eastern Conference, you got the highest vote-getting Nick is Derrick Rose. I understand Derrick Rose is an insanely popular player, has been from the time he won an MVP. A lot of popularity out in China, different places. Derrick Rose should be on. Derrick Rose is not even in the Knicks rotation right now. Right? Not even in the Knicks rotation right now. Okay? Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, both who are having borderline all-star worthy seasons. I think one of them gets it. Neither of them in the top 10 votes in front court or guards in the Eastern Conference. All right? Trae Young, who's having a terrible season shooting the ball, is 5th in voting. Okay? This is what we're talking about. And he's ahead of Tyrese Halliburton, who's leading the league in assists. Domantas Sabonis leading the league in rebounds. He's not here. Austin Reeves, people. Austin Reeves.
That was the one for me. That was the one for me where I was like,
go ahead. I'll let you talk there.
I know this is like when we saw Alex Caruso, I feel like, on one of these a few years ago. And it's just, for whatever reason, there's always one white dude on the Lakers that gets really popular, and it happens to be Austin Reeves, who's usually like a good player, right? It's usually Alex Caruso. Austin Reeves is usually a pretty good player. He ain't an all-star, though. Like, I'm not even going to pick this apart in terms of, like, this person should be, like, we just talked about the season Bam is having and the season Hero having. Neither one of them are here, right? That's probably because the Heat fans are spending too much time complaining about the roster, not actually voting for players that are on their team. Nick Claxton, Jared Allen, you know what I mean? Like, there are just guys here where I'm like, are we sure? LaMelo Ball, I understand his popularity, but, like, I mean, is he an all-star this year? I don't know if I've seen him play this year, so let's not even, like, get deep into that.
He's played seen 15 games.
Yeah, I've seen him play, but like barely, a couple games. Let's say he's been injured, and Charlotte's the most irrelevant team in the league this year. Ultimately, like, this just speaks to like a larger societal problem where we just give random people too much power. It's happening on Twitter where like people are getting verified just because they subscribe to Twitter Blue, and in some cases, announcing it on social media that they're verified, which is weird. But yeah, I think that's just, it's basically an extension of that. It's just like random people just gonna do what they do. And I think that if we put this to the players to vote, I think the results are gonna be weird. If we do this to the media, I honestly think it'll be better, but I still think there'll be a couple things where it's like, so it is what it is. It's just fans just, taking control of their power and whatever the case may be.
I'm not sure. I think there's never going to be a perfect system, and I think the players, if you gave them 50%, they probably mess it up too. Because
Jamal Crawford would still be getting votes.
Yeah. Do we think should we change this though? Like, I'm not sure I care enough.
Yeah. No, we absolutely not, because here's the problem. It's like I don't care that enough either. In terms of like the fans are going to do what they do. However,
right,
when we have discussions about all-time players, one of the things we mentioned is their all-star appearances. And now because Andrew Wiggins got voted to the all-star game last year, we have to forever address him as former all-star Andrew Wiggins, right? And that's something that, like, NBA champion, great. He was the second best player probably on that team at times during the playoffs, and probably their entire playoff run. That's better than being an all-star. You're still an all-star who started the game because of, I don't know, some K-pop shit people were saying. I don't even know enough about that to get into that, right? But like the thing is, when we have these debates, all-star comes up all the time. It's always something that happens.
But maybe my point is maybe it shouldn't. Maybe
it shouldn't, but it still will. It's not going to stop.
Focus on all NBA. All NBA matters a lot more to me than all-star. Right, it's the thing I'm going to look at. It is higher. Maybe you're not wrong that people don't bring it up. You're right about that. People do bring this up in the conversation. Yeah. I'm just saying maybe we're giving it too much weight, and collectively, not you and me, but people are giving it too much weight. And sure, would I be annoyed if they said, let's give 50% of the vote to the media? No, because I think the media and people who cover it are going to do a better job than the fans. Because I think what happens is you're getting way too many casuals in here that are voting and trolls. Let's call it what it is. There's
Trolls.
Casuals and trolls. And they're out here saying, oh, yeah, you know how I'm going to mess the system up? I'm going to vote for Austin Reeves. You mentioned Caruso. And this is no shade to his players. Do you remember a couple of years ago when Zaza Pachulia was like number 4 in front court voting and almost got in?
Taco Fall a couple of years ago when he was on like a 2-way contract. Just because he's like 8'12", and they wanted to put him in the All-Star game. And like, I just no.
Yeah.
It happened to Allen Iverson one year when he was hurt and he wasn't even playing it. And he was up there in votes. Like, this is something that's happened for generations at this point.
And again, I don't take it too seriously because I understand this is an exhibition game. I do not take it that seriously. I have no problem if fans want to see their favorite players. They want to see the most flashy players. On something, it wouldn't surprise me in the second round of voting if Trae Young I understand all that. They want to see the players that are going to make the game the most entertaining. I get that. But there has to be some standard. Some of y'all do too much, and some of y'all really do too much when you're out here voting for Austin Reeves. Like, that's where I'm like, okay, man, come on. You're not watching the league. No votes for Domantas Sabonis is crazy. No, Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson not being in the top 10. I'm really intrigued to see fan bases like the Knicks and the Kings who have beefs and legitimate beefs in both these situations, how much these fans go hard to vote for those guys now before the second round of voting comes out. That is intriguing.
The Heat too. I would say the Heat too, because Jimmy Butler's there, but like Bam probably is more the case because he's been healthier and playing better. And Tyler Hero, I don't think he's an all-star, but I think he should be in the top 10.
I think there's even more of a case. Listen, Bam is going to be tough because the front court is loaded. In the Eastern Conference, and we can get.
I think the coaches. I think because the bench gets determined by, coaching staff, et cetera, et cetera. I think he can get in that way because the front court. You're right. It's Tatum, Durant, Giannis.
He's never
and Embiid too. That's right.
And Embiid, right? And then you're talking about either Jimmy or Bam. You're talking about Julius Randle as a possibility. I think that's all legit. You can talk Jared Allen if you want again. Siakam, who's having a really good season. I know the record is going to hurt him in that front. But listen, the point we're talking about is it is ridiculous, and I will say this too for Bam. It's ridiculous that he's not in the top 10 in voting. Like, how do you watch basketball? Which again is my point. I don't think all the people are watching.
Right.
How do you watch and say that he's not necessarily one of the 10 best players of front court players in the Eastern Conference? Like, there's just no way.
Yeah. Behind like Nick Claxton? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Nick Claxton was good. No,
he's having a good season.
Yeah. But like,
good season. Yeah.
He ain't Bam.
Yeah, he's leading the league in field goal percentage. But then on the other hand, what is it? Sabonis is leading the league in rebounding, is shooting 62% true shooting percentage from the field, and he is not in the top 10. Austin Reeves has more votes than him. When you look at this, though, this is what I wanted to ask you with this before we get you out of here. The predictions, when I'm looking at this, do you, outside of the other stuff that we saw, because the front court in the East and the West it's really tight. 80's not 80's probably, he might get voted in still. Who knows with these fans? 80 probably wouldn't make it, and I would think Zion Williamson should get that third spot over him. That would be, if I'm being honest, if I'm really being honest about the best people in the front court, I probably would give it to Sabonis. To be quite honest, I still think Zion should make the All-Star team. Yeah. But I think Sabonis is probably going to get in as a reserve. But if Zion should probably pass AD, Jokic, LeBron, I think we're fine. I think we're fine with those three. I think those guys getting voted in. Is there somebody else you think should get the front court spot? One of the 3 front court spots in the East?
Nah, that's the race. And really, I think Zion, now that he's hurt, like, we'll see how much time he actually misses. But I think with Zion Williamson, he's been so good this year. I don't have a problem putting Sabonis ahead of him, but we both know that that's probably not going to happen anyway. So, like, Sabonis will get in as a reserve. But both of those guys deserve to be in. Zion's been, I mean, he has me believe, like, and I was high on this team coming in. I've called them my Western Conference team because I love watching them. But he has me thinking, like insane shit that they could do in the playoffs. He just has to be healthy. And Brandon Ingram as well, because he's been dinged up this year. They got to just stay healthy over there in New Orleans. And I think they could compete with anybody, literally anybody in the Western Conference. Like, they're built like a playoff roster. They got those pesky reserves coming off the bench, guys who can make plays.
Who you love.
Yes.
Your boy
Jose
GTA.
Alvarado. Guys who can make plays on both ends of the floor, right? Like, Zion, part of it is he's competing defensively. When you watch him play, like, he's not just doing things offensively in the point Zion and finishing around the rim and all that shit. He's competing defensively, and that translates to the rest of their team. I would not call their best three players like good defensive players. Him, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, but they compete, and that's what you want out of those type of players. And you got guys like Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado and Larry Nance who could actually really defend really well. Yeah, so like, yeah, they're scary good when they're healthy and when they're clicking.
I agree. The guards in the West, I mean, Curry, Doncic seem like locks for the backcourt for me. And I mean, and listen, I know Curry's gonna have missed time, but he's Steph Curry. He's getting in, and fans want to see him light up on threes. I personally don't have a problem with it. You could sit here and tell me it should be probably Ja, who I think will get in, and Luka, and that's fine. But I think Ja will get in. The guy that I hope as a guard doesn't get left out here. Two guys actually I should talk about. One, SGA. I do think he's deserving. I know the record isn't that great, but man, he's been fantastic this year. And a guy who's not even in the top 10 here, De'Aaron Fox. I am not a big De'Aaron Fox fan. I've not been a big De'Aaron Fox fan before this year, but I got to give him credit where credit's due. The shooting numbers are good. He's been fantastic this year. He's cut down on turnovers. He probably deserves a spot as a reserve guard. The Kings are where they are. And they're 5 games over 500. They probably should have an argument for 2 All-Stars. They're having their best season in 16 years. They might make the playoffs for the first time in 16 years. There's an argument there. You don't have an issue with the guards in the West, right?
No, and then I still we'll see when Devin Booker actually gets back. But
good point. Good point.
He's somebody who's going to be in the mix too, because he's missed some time, but he still played like 30 games or so. And he's probably if he's healthy, I think he's going to get in. So it's going to be difficult. And look, this is part of why I think the All-Star game should be 15 on 15. And I've been saying that for years as opposed to 12 on 12, especially because in terms of eligible players, you're carrying 15-man rosters. Now you're not playing all of them necessarily, but you're carrying 15-man rosters, sometimes 17 with two ways. And there's 30 teams in the league. Why not 30 All-Stars? It should be 15 on 15 instead of 12 versus 12, and you get fewer more deserving guys that should be in the game. And so what you could be like, then not everyone's going to play that much, and it's like it's the All-Star game. Who cares? Just put guys for 20 minutes.
That I'm still stunned that this is something the league has not switched yet. You and I have talked about this many times before in the podcast. It's something I'm stunned they haven't switched. Real quick, Eastern Conference front court: Durant, Giannis, Embiid. I mean, it's tough in the Eastern Conference. You could argue Tatum should be there in the 3. Somebody's getting left out.
I think I might argue.
Who are you kicking out?
That's the problem, right?
Yeah. Who are you kicking out?
Because Tatum's been so good on both sides, but it's I almost want to stick him in at guard and just be like, here's the best 5. And then just pick one of the guards.
Now you're bringing up another argument that I'm surprised the league hasn't moved to, and I think you support this too. Could we just go positionless on the All-Star voting? Can we just do that and get the 5 best starters in there? I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all, because this is a case where it will make a lot of sense, right? Because I would say that the 4 best players in the Eastern Conference are probably those 4, and then Donovan Mitchell would probably be the best guard, and that's your starting 5. Mitchell, Tatum, Durant, Giannis, and Embiid. But, I don't think it could go that way. Had a pretty good feeling that once all the Kyrie Irving stuff went down, that we would be talking about him starting in the All-Star game, because that's just kind of how this goes. So he's probably going to be starting in the All-Star game along with Donovan Mitchell, and then you're going to have 3 of those front court guys. And as far as the front court goes, we sort of laid it out before, right? Durant, Giannis, Embiid, Tatum are all going to be in. I think Bam should be in. I think Siakam and Julius Randle have great cases, and I think you can put both of them in because, you know, a lot of times it'll be 5 guards, 7 front court guys. Like, you could do it that way. We also have to see, like, who's going to be healthy around that time, but I think that's what you're talking about, right? Like, Julius Randle, I mean, you're a Knicks fan and you watch him more even than I do, and I would say, like, he has a good case to be in the All-Star team this season, given what we've seen from him in terms of production, competing on the defensive end. Back closer to where he was when he was All NBA Julius Randle a couple years ago. And then with the guards, it's like Kyrie will get in. He's been very good lately. Kyrie, you know, he's been very good lately. He's also another one who's competing on defense, right? Donovan Mitchell, I think, has been the best guard in the Eastern Conference, and like is unlike his former teammate at Utah, worthy of the trade package that was being acquired or being, you know, traded for him. And then other than that in the East, I think Jaylen Brown should get in. James Harden is up here. It doesn't surprise me. I hesitate to say all-star, but, you know.
He's been good since he got back. He's not what he once was, but he's been solid. I wouldn't be upset if he got it.
Yeah, he missed time, and so it's tricky, but I feel like he's somebody who he might end up getting in.
He has
more of a case to me than Trae Young, though, probably.
I agree with that. The other person I think that people are going to talk about, and I think this is the one for me, and I'm not going to be on my Wally Zerbiak on this because Wally Zerbiak did was whack. Tyrese Halliburton. Leading the league, he's in for me.
Mm-hmm.
I put him in over Harden.
Does this remind you of 07, 08 Chris Paul almost? Not as good on both sides of the ball, but like just offensively kind of.
Yeah, not as good defensively, but in terms of like impact on the team, which I think is the point you're making.
Yeah.
Because
this team is a lot better than I expected. They're not that good, and they might only make the play-in, but still.
He controls the game, and look, I mean, who did this guy want the Knicks to draft that year? Tyrese Halliburton. I'm just saying.
Mitchell, Kyrie, Jaylen Brown are all going to get in, I think, and Tyrese Halliburton he's the next best guard to me, right? I mean, I would even argue that he's probably in the top 3 with Mitchell and Jaylen Brown.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Because Kyrie's missed a little bit of time, although not that much. He hasn't had the Kyrie injury yet. We'll see if that happens later on this year. Darius Garland, I feel like his case is going to be interesting.
I think he's one that's going to come with him and Jalen Brunson. I think it's going to be very tight.
Yeah, that's another one. I think Jalen Brunson, to me, is probably going to if the Knicks get a player, I think he's the guy because positionally it's easier. Like there's an easier pathway for Jalen Brunson
for him than it is for Randall.
He has the problem with Jalen Brunson is like not with him, but he has to compete against big names at the guard spot. But objectively, he's been better than James Harden this season. I feel like I'd take his season over Trae Young's. I know Trae Young has the gaudier numbers.
Oh,
but in terms of impact,
his shooting has not. Trae Young's shooting's been down.
Yeah, so in terms of Jalen Brunson, to me, I think like if I'm looking at guards, Kyrie, Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, DeMar DeRozan is somebody who's going to get consideration here. But I think Jalen Brunson has a really, really good case. And I also think, like we talked about Tyler Hero, he's somebody who should be mentioned here. I think his pathway to get in is going to be difficult because of all the names we said. And I think because Miami's probably going to get Bam in as an all-star, and Jimmy may be ahead of Tyler Hero even because just kind of how it works, right? But, like, I think Tyler Hero is somebody who should get consideration and who may end up getting in because of injuries, but I don't think he's going to be somebody who gets in, like, right off the bat. I think with Jalen Brunson, the way he's been playing and how impactful he's been, like, I think – and Dex – like, if we did some trivia here briefly, he's the first Knicks guard. He would be the first Knicks guard to be an all-star since when? Is it Marbury? It should have been Raymond Felton that one season.
That one season. I think he will be the first. You will be the first since Marbury. And then even before that, I think it's John Starks.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, the Knicks haven't had too many guards. Obviously, they had Melo a bunch of times. I think he would be the first guard since Marbury.
And Porzingis, I think once or
Porzingis made an all-star team. Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. You're right. which
and
would be
obviously Julius Randle a couple years ago. Now I was hoping to see RJ Barrett on this list this season, but like
he hasn't quite done that.
He hasn't quite done that. He's shown some good things, but it's still not where I want it to be.
Yep, a lot of Knicks fans,
and I don't think Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle have gotten in the way of that necessarily. No, I just think RJ needs to be better. That's it.
Yeah, which reminds me,
more consistent.
When we got there's something I gotta let you know that I learned about some things with the Knickerbockers when we get off the show. I cannot say it here. Some stuff I learned about some things last year. But that's it. That is Bryan Fonseca. Thanks for joining me. Check out his work, 5 Reasons Sports, doing all the stuff on the Heat. I'm sure we'll have more events about how the fans mess things up with the All-Star game by the next time the second round of votings come out. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back, give you my picks, 3 best picks for tonight with the betting for basketball. Bryan, we'll talk soon. Enjoy the fights this weekend.
Yes, sir.
And keep repping for the Miami Heat like you always do. All right, that is Bryan Fonseca. Check out his work for sure there. Like I said, quick break. We'll be back in a hot second, and we're going to talk what the best bets are for Friday night in the NBA when we come back on NBA Exchange.
Are you looking for a better way to play player props or daily fantasy sports? Well, look no further than Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leading over-under daily fantasy game. Why? Because it's so easy to use and win. You can make your picks in under 30 seconds and win up to 10 times your money in one day. Right now, we have a special offer for our viewers and listeners of the NBA Exchange. All you got to do is sign up now and use the promo code NBAEX. Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Yep, that's right. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So, join the over 150,000 others who found a better way to play and download the Prize Picks app today.
All right, we're back. Talk some picks for Friday night. Huge slate of games tonight in the NBA. We got a lot on tap. We're going to start off with the Nets. They are down in the Big Easy. They're visiting the Pelicans, 4.5. The Nets, their 12-game winning streak was snapped the other night at the hands of the Chicago Bulls. That was on Tuesday night. The Nets are 4.5-point favorites over the Pelicans. Pelicans plus 158 on that money line. Over under here is 231. Remember, the Pelicans now without Zion Williamson, no Brandon Ingram. I love the Nets in this. I think there's a lot of respect for the Pelicans and their defense, and Bryan talked about how they're playing and why I think the number is not this high for the Nets at 4.5. But I think the Nets are going to be pretty pissed off that the streak came to an end against the Bulls on the road. Also, remember, first game of the season, the Pelicans gave them the business, took it to them at the Barclays Center. I like the revenge factor here. Give me the Nets to cover the 4.5 points. Obviously, continued big games for anything you get with Durant, Irving. I think both of those guys come out very focused tonight. They want to start this off. This is a decent stretch and test for the Nets coming up. They got this game. They have a back-to-back on Saturday. I'm forgetting who they're playing. And then they have the Celtics on Tuesday. Some big games. Eyes will be on the Nets over the next couple of days to see how they stack up against some of the other top teams in the NBA. The Nets, I think, knew they missed a chance to tie for the best record in the NBA the other night. Again, I think they come out focused here. Love them in this spot. I think it's a low number. If you can get it on a 4.5 early, do it. Wouldn't shock me if this line moves up a point or so before tip-off tonight down in the Big Easy. All right, next up, the team that beat the Nets, the Chicago Bulls. They are in the city of brotherly love. They'll be taking on the Sixers. Bulls plus 160 on their money line. Sixers, they're the favorites here. 4.5 also the line. Over under of 231. A little shocked here, too, at how low the line is. But the Bulls, they have been playing scrappy. But I think, look, the Sixers, they've been playing good. Embiid and Harden. Harden's been solid, racking up the assists, not turning the ball over. Maxi's back now. The Sixers look like they're starting to start a round into form. They've been very solid defensively all year. And I think the Bulls just don't have enough. They're coming off a win with a big high. Bulls now have 17 wins. They're back into that playing spot at the bottom of the East, and they've been playing more competitive. I think this will be a competitive game, but at this number, I like the Sixers to cover. I think they can win by 6 or more points. So if you want to stretch it maybe a point and try to see if you can get better odds, I would like that. But I like the Sixers here, the way they're playing. And I think one of the things that hurts the Bulls is they have no answer for really good bigs inside like Embiid, Jokic, those kind of guys. They're going to kill them on the inside. I expect a monster game for Embiid. I would take the over for him with his points line total. Also on the glass, this is a team in the Bulls that can be hurt in the glass, and look for the Sixers to do that as well. Give me the Sixers to cover the -4.5. So low spreads, 4.5 for the first two. I like that. The Miami Heat, who we talked about a lot on this show today, they are visiting the Valley of the Sun in Phoenix. They will be battling the Suns. The Heat are 2-point favorites here. The Suns +115. They are home underdogs over under here of 214. And why is that number so low for the NBA today? Well, the Suns, they are struggling to score as of late with no Devin Booker. You've seen that in the last couple of games. They did get a good win the other night. The Suns did, but I do not trust this offense. Chris Paul, you're asking him to be the guy a lot. I do not think that's something that he could do and carry for long stretches anymore. As much as I love Chris Paul, it is a tall order for them without Devin Booker. Bam Adebayo should make things difficult for DeAndre Ayton. I just trust the Miami offense. Yes, I trust the Miami offense more, even though they're the 27th ranked offense in adjusted offensive rating, offense that I do not love, but I trust them a little bit more. I think they'll be pissed coming off of a loss. This is another thing you hear with the trend in these games. I like the revenge factor in these games. I talked about it with the Nets. Same thing for the Heat. I think they'll be very upset over the loss. I think they cover these 2 points. I love them as 2-point favorites on the road. I think they come back. Big bounce back game. Look for Kyle Lowry, who did not have a good game. I think he bounces back here with a solid one. I think they're pissed off with the loss of the Lakers at home, out in Phoenix. I think the Heat are able to get the win. So I'm taking all the favorites tonight. Give me the Nets covering the 4.5. The Sixers on the road. The Sixers covering the 4.5 at home against the Bulls. And the Heat covering the 2 points in the Valley of the Sun out there in Phoenix against the Suns, who are injury depleted. That is it for this episode of the NBA Exchange. We close another week. We'll be talking a lot more about a lot of the teams in the next coming week. There'll be 2 episodes next week, Monday and Friday. Nothing on Wednesday. Gerard out of town, as I told you guys the other day. But we'll have plenty to talk about. There'll be so much to talk about. I've been enjoying the games, enjoying the performances. Please, people, enjoy it, support it. If you like this show, hit the like button. Or if you're watching on YouTube on the Backpack Broadcasting channel, Facebook, share it, Twitter, whatever it is, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate all the support in any way that you can to the show. Continue to support the show. We appreciate you in all those ways. And we look forward to doing so much more here on the NBA Exchange. Again, that is it for this edition. I'm Dexter Henry. Until next time, y'all. Peace.